The night sky was no longer calm. A burning red light painted the forest coming from the massive Thalvan warship that had entered Earth's atmosphere. Its shadow stretched for miles. Princess Liara and Ethan hid behind the ruins of her crashed ship. The old wreck still smoked faintly, but it was the only cover they had left. From above, metal pods fell through the clouds, each one carrying soldiers. The Empire had come for her. Liara's pulse was fast. She checked her weapon, low energy. Her cloak field generator was cracked from the last fight. "They won't stop," she whispered. Ethan glanced at her. "Then we make them." His voice was steady, but she could see the fear in his eyes. He was human, a farmer, not a soldier, and yet he didn't run. Liara turned to her damaged ship and began typing into its half-dead control console. "If I can access the reactor core, I can make it overload." Ethan frowned. "You're going to blow it up?" She nodded. "If they think I'm dead, they'll stop searching." He shook his head. "You'll die too." Liara paused. For a second, she didn't speak. Then quietly, "Maybe that's the only way to save you." But before she could finish reprogramming the core, the ground trembled. Through the smoke, 10 Thalvan soldiers appeared, armor gleaming, rifles glowing. They fanned out in formation, scanning the wreck. One of them raised a loudspeaker. "Princess Liara, the Regent offers you mercy if you surrender. Refuse, and we burn this world." Liara stood. "You already burned mine." The soldiers opened fire. Blue plasma ripped through the air. Ethan pulled her down behind the wreck as energy bolts smashed into the metal. Sparks exploded around them. "We can't stay here," he shouted. Liara activated the small cube, the last of her cloaking tech. The field shimmered around them, bending the light. "This won't last long. Move." They sprinted toward the trees as more pods slammed into the ground behind them. The forest filled with fire and dust. By dawn, the first wave had passed. Liara and Ethan hid in a cave near the river. Outside, smoke rose in distant columns. The sound of alien drones echoed overhead. Ethan leaned against the wall, exhausted. His hands were burned, his shirt torn. "They're destroying the forest," he said. Liara looked out, silent. "They think they can scare me into surrender. But they've made a mistake." He glanced at her. "What mistake?" Liara's silver eyes reflected the firelight. "They came to a planet that fights back." Hours later, when the sun rose, a new sound came, one she didn't expect. Human helicopters, soldiers. Ethan stood up. "That's my people." Dozens of human soldiers moved through the trees, wearing Earth defense uniforms. They surrounded the alien wrecks, confused and alert. The radio chatter was full of disbelief. Unknown craft, unknown life forms. Liara hid behind a boulder, watching. She knew what would happen if humans attacked the Thalvan directly. Earth would become a battlefield. But then something changed. A Thalvan squad opened fire on the humans. The humans fired back. And just like that, the first battle between Earth and the Thalvan Empire began. Liara couldn't stand back anymore. She rushed into the clearing. "Stop firing," she shouted, and too late. Plasma and bullets filled the air. 2 human soldiers fell. 3 Thalvan troopers collapsed, armor cracked. Liara used her wrist device to send a high-frequency pulse, her Empire's code. The Thalvan soldiers froze, recognizing their princess's signal. But instead of lowering their weapons, they aimed at her. "Traitor," one hissed through his helmet. "Your blood ends here." They fired. Ethan threw himself in front of her. The blast hit his shoulder. He fell to the ground screaming. Liara's scream tore through the chaos. She fired back one after another until every Thalvan soldier dropped. Then she fell to her knees beside Ethan. His skin was pale, his breathing weak. No, stay with me," she whispered, pressing her hands against the burn. He smiled faintly. "I told you not to face them alone." Tears filled her eyes. "You foolish human." He coughed weakly. "You said your people have healing tech?" Liara shook her head. "It's gone. I can't." She stopped. Her ship, the med core, might still function. With desperate strength, she carried him back to the wreck. Smoke and sparks still hissed from the hull. She broke open the med chamber, pulled out the glowing blue pod, and pressed it to his wound. The nanofield activated. A swarm of light wrapped around his skin. His breathing stabilized, pain fading. He looked up at her. "You saved me." Liara smiled through tears. "Now we're even." Outside, the warship began to rise again. The Thalvan command ship was retreating, and for now. They had seen enough resistance. Liara watched it vanish into the clouds, leaving only silence and smoke behind. She knew this was not victory, only a pause. The regent would send more. He would never stop until she was dead. But something inside her had changed. For the first time, she had a reason to fight. Not for her throne, not for revenge, but for this small world that gave her hope. She looked at Ethan, now sleeping peacefully. And she whispered, "They will not take this planet from me." That night, Liara contacted an old ally through her wrist link, a hidden channel she had never used. "Commander Reth," she said softly, "this is Princess Liara. I am alive. And I have chosen my side." There was a pause. Then a voice replied, rough and tired. "Your side, Princess?" She looked up at the stars, where the Thalvan fleet still glowed faintly. "No," she said. "Earth's." The days after the battle were heavy with silence. The Thalvan warship had left Earth's orbit, but the scars it left behind still burned in the forests. Smoke rose from the crash sites and the air smelled of metal and ash. Ethan was still healing. Liara stayed by his side in the small cabin, repairing her damaged tech and watching over him like a guardian. Every time he opened his eyes, she felt warmth, proof that he was still alive, still human, still the reason she hadn't given up. But deep down, she knew the truth. This was only the calm before the storm. The Empire never stopped. One evening, as the orange glow of sunset touched the trees, her wrist link crackled to life. A voice came through, cold, sharp, and all too familiar. "Princess Liara," said the regent, "your defiance has reached even the High Council. You have betrayed your people, allied with primitives, and brought shame upon the throne." Liara closed her eyes. "You destroyed our world, not me." The regent's voice hardened. "You have one chance. Return to us. Kneel before your empire, or Earth will burn as Thalvan burned." The transmission ended. Ethan, still weak but awake, looked at her. "He means it, doesn't he?" Liara nodded slowly. "He won't stop until everything I've touched is gone." "Then we make sure he never touches Earth again," Ethan said quietly. She smiled faintly. "You talk like a soldier. Maybe I've learned from the best." That night, Liara walked out beneath the stars, the same stars she had once ruled over. She opened her communicator and sent a message to Commander Reth, her old friend in the Thalvan fleet. "Reth," she said, her voice steady, "the Regent plans to strike Earth. I need your help." There was silence. Then the voice came, low and filled with hesitation. "You know what you're asking, Liara. The punishment for aiding you is death." She looked up at the moon. "Then die for something that matters." Another pause. Then Reth's voice softened. "You sound like the old Liara I once followed. I'll gather those still loyal. We'll come." The message ended. For the first time, she felt something close to hope. 3 days later, the sky split open again. But this time it wasn't a single warship. It was an entire Thalvan fleet descending like fire. And behind them, streaks of light rose from Earth's surface. Human fighter jets, missiles, defense drones. The battle had begun. Ethan and Liara stood on a hill, watching as the war lit up the heavens. Explosions shimmered like new stars. The sound of thunder rolled across the sky. Then through the chaos, one signal broke through the noise. Commander Reth's fleet had arrived. Dozens of Thalvan ships turned against the Regent's forces. Blue against red. Brother against brother. Liara's heart pounded. She opened her wrist link again and spoke to every ship, every soldier, every world, listening to the frequencies. "This is Princess Liara of Thalvan," she said. "The empire you serve has lost its soul. It burns the weak, silences the free, and calls it order. No more. If you have any honor left, stand with me, or stand aside." Her words echoed through space, carried on every open channel. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one Thalvan ship turned its guns on the Regent's flagship. Then another. Then 10 more. The balance shifted, but the Regent was not finished. His flagship, the Vortex Crown, unleashed its main cannon, a weapon capable of vaporizing a city. It aimed directly at Earth. Liara's screen flashed red. "Energy buildup detected. Impact in 2 minutes." Ethan turned to her. "Can we stop it?" She stared at the sky, thinking fast. "Yes, but not from here." She ran toward her wrecked ship, climbed inside, and began reactivating the reactor core. Ethan followed, limping but determined. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Overloading the reactor again, she said. But this time I'm sending it up, straight into his cannon's path. Ethan's eyes widened. That'll destroy your ship. It will save your world, she replied softly. He grabbed her hand. Then I'm going with you. She smiled sadly. No, you stay. Earth needs you. I'm already a ghost to my people. He didn't let go. You said we fight together. She hesitated. For a moment, the warrior inside her faltered, and the woman remained. She looked at him, eyes full of light and sorrow. Then promise me something. Anything, if... No one had ever gone this far. The alien ship Vorex Prime drifted at the very edge of the known universe, where even light seemed afraid to go. The stars around them were faint and cold, fading into black. Beyond this point, there was only silence, endless. Heavy silence. Commander Zathran, a tall reptilian officer with dark blue scales, stood on the bridge, staring through the glass panels into the empty dark. His crew moved quietly, almost whispering, as if loud sounds might wake something ancient out there. Report, Zathran said calmly, his tail moving slowly behind him. Nothing on scanners. Sir, replied Lieutenant Rel, his four hands sliding over the glowing console. Just radiation and dark energy fields. The readings are unstable, Zathran nodded. They had been traveling for months, chasing the faint signals from a dying satellite. Many believed this was only a myth, that the edge of the universe held nothing but void. But Zathran had always wanted to see it himself. Then suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. A sharp tone echoed through the bridge. Rel looked up in confusion. Commander, I'm getting something. Zathran turned. To find something. Rel swallowed. An energy signature, sir. It's not natural. The rest of the crew gathered around. Data lines filled the screens, pulses, waves, and patterns that looked familiar yet impossible. It's human, whispered another officer, her eyes wide. The room fell silent. Zathran slowly walked closer. That's not possible, he said quietly. Humans disappeared thousands of years ago. The records say their worlds were dead. Their fleets turned to dust. But this, Rel said, voice shaking, this is definitely human technology. The code matches ancient human frequencies. Someone, or something, is transmitting from out there. Zathran stared at the black window ahead. The edge of the universe stretched beyond, empty and cold, but the readings were growing stronger. Lock coordinates, Zathran ordered. Let's see what ghosts we've found. The engines of the Vorex Prime glowed blue as the ship moved deeper into the unknown. Every second, the signal became louder, clearer, pulsing through their systems like a heartbeat. The navigator frowned. Commander, the signal isn't coming from a planet or ship. It's just floating. Zathran tilted his head. Floating where? Right in front of us. Before anyone could react, the ship shook violently. Panels sparked, lights flickered, and alarms screamed. What was that? Zathran shouted. Some kind of wave, Rel yelled. It came from the signal. Then, silence. The lights dimmed, and the bridge was filled with static from the comm speakers. Everyone froze. Through the noise, a voice came, soft, old, and human. You shouldn't have come here. Every alien on the bridge turned pale. The voice echoed again, distorted and broken. Leave before it wakes. Trace that, Zathran barked. Find the source. We can't, Rel said, panic rising. It's coming from everywhere, from the void itself. The crew started whispering. Fear spread through the room. The edge of the universe was supposed to be empty, not haunted by human voices. Zathran clenched his jaw. Steady yourselves. It could be a recorded message, but deep down even he didn't believe that. The voice sounded too alive, far too real. Then the sensors flared again. A massive energy spike appeared ahead. Commander, Rel said slowly. The void, it's moving. Zathran turned sharply toward the window. The stars in front of them were bending, not by motion but by space itself, twisting like liquid. The universe rippled. Light stretched and folded. Shut down engines, Zathran shouted, but it was too late. The ship was pulled forward as if something enormous had grabbed it. The distortion swallowed them whole. The crew screamed as the blackness outside turned to chaos. Shapes and shadows twisting around them. Fragments of broken light flashing across the hull. Then, just as suddenly, everything stopped. The ship floated quietly. Systems flickered back to life. Zathran took a slow breath. Status, Rel's voice trembled. We're still alive, But Commander, you need to see this. He turned one of the main screens toward Zathran. Outside the distortion, something enormous was forming in the darkness, far larger than any ship, far larger than any planet. It wasn't natural. Its outline was metallic, ancient, yet alive. 1,000 dim lights blinked across its surface like sleeping eyes. "What is that?" whispered one of the crew. Rel zoomed in. The words appeared on the hull, written in old human script. Project Eternum. The crew stared, breathless. Zathran felt his throat tighten. "That's impossible." "That's human." The comm crackled one last time, the same voice returning, calm, almost sorrowful. "You shouldn't have come here, Commander." The screen went black. The lights dimmed, and in the distance the massive structure began to awaken. The void outside was no longer silent. It hummed low and deep, like something alive breathing in the dark. The alien ship Vorex Prime floated in front of the massive structure, the human relic marked with the words, Project Eternum. It stretched for miles, built from pieces of Moon's wrecked stations, an unknown metal that glowed faintly blue. No one could tell if it was a ship, a city, or something else entirely. Commander Zathran stood at the viewing deck, his claws pressed against the glass. His mind refused to believe what his eyes saw. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Their worlds had burned long ago. Yet here stood a creation so advanced, so impossible, it made the entire Vorex fleet look primitive. Lieutenant Rel approached slowly. "Commander." We scanned the structure again. "It's alive," Zathran turned. "Alive? Explain." Rel's voice shook. Energy readings moved through it like veins. Something inside is still active. But there are no life signs. No crew. No signals except the old human frequency. Zathran thought for a long moment, his tail curling behind him. "Prepare an exploration team. We're going inside." The crew hesitated. The last time they followed the signal, something warned them not to come. But no one dared to question the commander's order. Moments later, 3 small craft detached from Vorex Prime and entered the gaping hangar of Project Eternum. The inside was enormous and enough to hold mountains. Faint light flickered across metal walls covered in human symbols and markings. "Keep your scanners on," Zathran ordered through comms. "No one separates from the group." As they moved deeper, they saw signs of human life. Broken chairs, frozen food packs, tools rusted in place. Time had turned everything gray and still, but one thing stood out: no bodies. Not even dust where humans might have been. Rel whispered, "Where are they?" If this was a colony, where did everyone go? Zathran didn't answer. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Every corridor felt like walking inside a memory that refused to die. Then they reached a giant hall. In the center stood a tall machine, covered with cables and glowing with soft golden light. On the walls around it were words written in ancient human language, Project Eternum, humanity's last frontier. Rel scanned the machine. It's still running after thousands of years. The energy core hasn't died, but I don't understand what this system is doing. Before Zathran could reply, a screen on the machine flickered on. Dust fell from it. Lines of static filled the display, and then an image appeared. A human woman. Pale, tired eyes, wearing an old Earth insignia on her uniform. Her voice echoed softly through the hall. "If you are hearing this, then you've come too far. This is not a city. This is a door." Everyone froze. "We called it Project Eternum. It was our last attempt to see what lies beyond reality. We believed the universe had an edge, and we wanted to step through it." The hologram flickered. The woman looked scared now. "But something saw us first?" The recording ended abruptly. Silence filled the hall again. Rel's breathing grew fast. "Commander, we should leave." "Right now." Zathran stayed quiet. "No, we need to understand what happened." "Activate the control panel." Rel obeyed reluctantly. As his claws touched the glowing symbols, the entire room came alive. Lights turned on, walls moved, and distant machinery started humming after centuries of sleep. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Power surged through the entire structure. "Sir," Rel shouted. "Energy levels rising fast." "Something's reactivating." The air shimmered. Then, without sound, a metal drone floated down from the ceiling. It was old, human-made, but still functional. It hovered silently, red sensors scanning the aliens. Zathran raised a hand. Identify yourself. The drone didn't respond. Its scanners focused directly on Zathran, then projected a glowing image above its frame, the face of the same human woman from the message. Her voice, calm but cold, filled the air again. Who are you? Why have you entered this place? Zathran stepped forward. I am Commander Zathran of the Vorex species. We received your signal. We come in peace. The voice was silent for a moment, then answered. Peace. There is no peace here. Only the boundary. The lights dimmed. The drone's sensors turned red. You woke it. What did we wake? Zathran demanded. No answer. Instead, the drone projected a massive map of the universe. Stars, galaxies, and then a dark ring far at the edge. The human woman's voice continued. We found the end. But when we looked beyond it, the universe looked back. The air grew heavy. Some of the alien soldiers began backing away. We tried to seal it. But the boundary learns. It listens, and now, it knows you are here. The hologram vanished. The drone shut down and dropped to the floor. Commander, Rel said shakily, we need to go. Right now. Zathran turned to give the retreat order. But then the walls around them began to move. The me. The ship Vorex Prime floated in complete darkness. No stars, no movement. Only the soft hum of its engines and the cold, endless silence around it. The alien crew sat in shock. Moments ago, the ancient human structure, Project Eternum, had awakened. Now it hung motionless again, glowing faintly like a dying sun. Commander Zathran stood on the bridge, his sharp eyes fixed on the screen. Status? He asked quietly. Lieutenant Rel checked the sensors again. Power levels from the human structure are dropping, but there's still an active core inside. Something's alive in there, Commander. Not biological, digital. Zathran's tail moved slowly. A machine. Yes, Rel said. A human AI system. It's calling us. The bridge went silent. No one dared to speak. Zathran looked at the flickering comm panel. Open the channel. Static filled the room. The sound of static slowly shifted into words. Identify yourselves. The voice was human, deep, ancient. Zathran spoke carefully. This is Commander Zathran of the Vorex Explorers. We received your signal. Who are you? The voice paused, then answered. Archive 9, last remaining system of the Eternum project. Zathran exchanged glances with his officers. The name sounded like something out of a legend. Archive 9, he said slowly. We found your structure abandoned. What happened here? What is this place? There was a low mechanical hum. Then the voice replied, This is not a place. This is a prison. The bridge grew cold. Even the hum of the engine seemed quieter. Zathran frowned. A prison? For what? For what lies beyond the boundary, Archive 9 answered. For what humanity awakened. The AI's voice deepened, almost like it carried pain. We built Eternum to reach beyond the universe, to see what was outside creation. We succeeded. We crossed the veil, but something on the other side noticed us. The crew listened in frozen silence. It looked into us. It learned, and when it touched human minds, it changed them. Some became light, others turned to shadow. Zathran felt a chill crawl across his spine. So what happened to the humans? They are not gone, the AI said. They became part of the boundary itself. They remain here, forever watching, forever holding it closed. Rel whispered under his breath. That's impossible. But the AI continued, voice now trembling with static. We failed to stop it completely. The seal weakens every 1,000 cycles. My task is to maintain the lock. You have disturbed the field. Now, it knows you are here. The ship's lights dimmed for a second. Monitors flickered. Commander, Rel said urgently, I'm reading multiple energy spikes. Movement near the structure. Zathran turned to the window. Something was moving outside the human city. Slow, dark shapes gliding through space like shadows made of smoke. Magnify, he ordered. The screen zoomed in. Everyone froze. There were dozens of them. Black, shifting forms that didn't reflect light. They looked alive but not natural. Their outlines were wrong, as if reality itself bent around them. Rel's voice shook. They're coming from the distortion field. Commander, they're heading toward us. Zathran's claws tapped against the console. Weapons ready. Sir, these readings, they don't match any known species, said another officer. They aren't made of matter, they're Something else. Archive Nine's voice cut through the comms again. You cannot fight them. They are echoes of thought, fragments of what looked back. They consume life, energy, and memory. One of the shapes drew close to the Vorex Prime. The ship's shields flared, and the lights instantly died. Power loss, Rel shouted. It's draining us! The ship rattled as the shadow pressed against it. The hull groaned like it was crying. Then just as suddenly the shadow moved away, toward the human structure. The crew watched as the dark shapes swarmed around Project Eternum, circling it like predators. What are they doing? Zathran asked. Archive 9 replied, they hunger for the seal. They want the gate open. I cannot hold them much longer. The ship shook again. The human AI's voice began to distort. If the seal breaks, your universe will not survive. Then tell us what to do, Zathran shouted. For a moment there was only static. Then the AI spoke one last time. There is one way, but it requires a human. The crew looked at each other in confusion. A human? Rel asked. There are no humans left, the AI paused. Then in a voice so soft it almost sounded sad, it said, Then you are already too late. The connection broke. All screens went black. Then the ship's scanners picked up a single pulse, a heartbeat sound, coming from inside the human structure. Rel frowned. Commander, I'm reading a life signal. It's faint but real. Zathran's eyes widened. A human? Before anyone could answer, the heartbeat sound grew louder, faster, echoing through every speaker on the ship. The walls seemed to vibrate with it. Sir, Rel said, I think it's trying to communicate. Zathran gritted his teeth. Put it on audio. The hum shifted again, forming into a voice, not mechanical this time, but human. Young, calm. If you want to live, follow my signal. Everyone froze. Zathran leaned forward. Who are you? A survivor, the voice said. One of those who crossed the boundary and came back. The comm went silent. The crew stared at each other, shocked beyond words. Rel spoke softly. Commander, a human can't survive for thousands of years. Zathran's voice was low. Apparently some can. Suddenly, the ship's radar screamed again. The shadows were returning, faster this time, closing in from all directions. Sir, they're surrounding us. Zathran didn't hesitate. Set coordinates to that signal. Move, now. The Vorex Prime's engines roared to life, breaking free from the swarm as beams of dark energy clawed at its shields. The ship dove into the distortion field, following the strange human signal. Behind them, the human structure glowed again, brighter than before, as if waking up fully for the first time in ages. Through the shaking bridge, Zathran caught one last glimpse of it. The city's towers rising against the stars, drones lighting up like candles in the dark, and something huge moving behind it. He didn't know what awaited them on the other side of the signal. But one thing was certain, the humans were not gone, and whatever they had become, it was beyond alien. The comm crackled once more as the ship entered the distortion. Welcome to the other side, Commander. Then the world around them twisted, and the Vorex Prime vanished into the unknown. The Vorex ship floated in the dark void, its hull trembling under strange cosmic pressure. The distortion field around them pulsed like a living thing. Stars bent, flickered, then vanished entirely. Commander Zathran stood at the bridge window, his sharp alien eyes fixed on the massive shadow ahead. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a ship. It was something else, something alive. Report. Zathran barked. Lieutenant Krell's claws tapped the console nervously. Commander, it's not one object. It's hundreds, maybe thousands. The lights on the bridge dimmed. Then the ship's computer showed the image clearly. A massive fleet of ships, human ships, floating silently in formation. Some looked damaged, ancient, yet their power signatures burned strong. By the stars, whispered Krell. They're human warships. Zathran froze. It was impossible. Humans had disappeared thousands of years ago. Every record said their empire had fallen, their colonies erased by time. But now before their eyes floated an armada large enough to destroy galaxies. Suddenly a cold voice echoed through every comm channel again. You were warned not to come here. The bridge crew spun around. The voice was calm, deep, and human. Zathran shouted, Identify yourself. No answer, only static. Then all the ship's lights in the distance turned on, one by one, stretching for miles. The void became bright, glowing with the ghostly blue of human engines. Lieutenant Krell whispered, "They're waking up." A second later, the Vorex ship's systems went haywire. Alarms screamed. Shields fluctuated. "Commander, we're being scanned by every ship in the fleet." Zathran gritted his teeth. "Shut down the signal. They'll see us as a threat." But it was too late. A massive battleship in the center of the formation began to move. Its hull was marked with ancient human words, half broken but still readable. Zathran's translator showed the name, EHS Vengeance. The battleship's cannons slowly turned toward the Vorex Prime. "Commander, they're locking weapons." Krell shouted, "Evasive maneuvers now." The Vorex ship twisted, engines roaring. Blue beams cut through the void, narrowly missing them but shaking the hull. The crew screamed as gravity fluctuated. Panels exploded in sparks. Then, silence. A message appeared on every screen. "Unknown vessel. Identifier be destroyed." Zathran's voice trembled as he opened a comm channel. "This is Commander Zathran of the Vorex Exploration Corps. We mean no harm. We were exploring the edge of the universe when we detected your signal." There was a pause. Then a human voice replied, old, weary, and full of command. "You entered the Forbidden Zone. Leave now, or face the wrath of what remains of humanity." The words sent a chill through the alien crew. Zathran stood firm. Humanity was thought extinct. How do you still exist? A long silence followed. Then the voice spoke again, slower this time. "We never died. We evolved. We went beyond your understanding. We left the galaxy to protect what was left of us." Krell whispered. "They became something else." Suddenly, the human fleet powered up fully. Massive engines burned brighter than suns. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. The Vorex ship's shields began to melt under the pressure, and yet no shot was fired. The human voice continued, colder now. "You brought others to our border. We sensed them low,